Hi, everybody. I think we'll do a prompt start. I know there's a few more people coming in, but welcome to the final technology showcase for the BDRS, which is Barriers to Decarbonising Roads Sandbox. So today we're going to be hearing from Giles Perkins, who's a founding member of the team that put together the broader Live Labs program. I'm going to be taking you through very quickly the objectives and kind of background to the sandbox itself. But the main kind of meat of today is actually hearing from the technology companies themselves, the experiences they had, progress that they made in the sandbox, what they learned, and obviously understanding more about their products as well. We'll be closing things out hearing from Lauren from Amy, who's also a key founding member of the wider program. The only housekeeping I've really got is if you can leave the lobby management to us. We'll be admitting people, so don't worry about that. Please stay off camera for now. You potentially will be able to jump in with questions. And we will be recording the session as well. So if you have any issues with that, please let us know and we can work that out. In terms of kind of engagement and questions, so we'll be hearing from each tech company, and then there will be a short period of time for you to ask questions. So please either jump in with your hand up, or you can write your question in the chat and we'll manage it that way. And anything that's unanswered, we can also follow up, help you follow up with afterwards as well. So I'm going to hand over to Giles Perkins from WSP, who's going to tell us about the background to the Live Labs program more broadly.
Thank you, Seb, and thank you everybody for coming today. I'm going to give you a very, very quick trot through Live Labs 2 and its context. I'm not going to use slides because there'd be a lot more interesting slides to see than my standard slides on the program. To be clear, I am the program director for Live Labs 2. So when I am working on this program, I am effectively on a non-linear secondment. So what happens in these rooms stays in these rooms and doesn't get fed back to the rest of my organization unless things are in the public domain. I'm very fortunate that I've been on the Live Labs journey since about 2018 now. Was the program director for Live Labs 1, program director for Live Labs 2. I report to a commissioning board that consists of public, private and academic partners from around the UK. Live Labs 2 is very unusual for a DFT funded program, that it is all 4 nations, which is something that's very, very exciting for us. Our mission is to do what you guys have been doing, which is to look at low carbon initiatives, zero carbon initiatives, look at the relevance and the context for the local highway sector, then work out how we do that scaling piece, all in the context of the uncertainty that we face around climate. Local roads are 97% of the UK road asset. About 4 billion is spent in the sector per year. That's in the public sector and private sector. And that's about 1.5 million tons of CO2 each year. So the prize is very, very big. And as we've said all the way along, once tailpipe is decarbonised, this will be the next biggest challenge that we have to face. And we aren't alone on this. If anybody was at Highways UK, the other week you may have heard National Highways talking about Lower Thames Crossing, which is taking a similar carbon-based approach to that programme. The program is focused on measuring carbon benefits. It's focused on sharing learnings, but importantly, it's actually a behavioral change program. And this is key because you guys, the sector, we can all have fantastic things that are great in trials, in sandboxes, but how we shift the dial on products and services being adopted, how we change standards, how we get these things written into procurement, specifications, etc., is really, really critical for us. We, through the program, through the work that CEDR are doing, through the work that the other Live Labs are doing, it's around those carbon-focused initiatives. There's a big communications and outreach program that sits alongside it. There's a big monitoring and evaluation program that sits besides that, which leads to the behavior change, which leads to the new business as usual, which leads to the scaling. So events like this are critical in understanding what we've done, how we've gone about it, and it starts to give us the evidence to allow us to do the storytelling bit. I'm a big fan of storytelling. Yes, we need the evidence, we need all the dry data and the reports that sit behind it, but we all have an imperative in being the agents of change, if you like, how we get these bigger stories out to the rest of the world. An important part of the program is thinking systematically. So when we think about products, it's not just the products, it's the operatives that are using those products, it's the managers that are making the decisions to use those products, it's the finance that sits around it, it's the procurement, it's the specification, it's the public's reaction to them. It's all those upstream and downstream things, and how they are all interlinked is critical. Live Labs itself is the 4 nations, which is really interesting, and certainly in my far too many years spinning around the Department for Transport, I can't ever think of another 4 nations project. And we've got 4 thematic areas, obviously the Centre of Excellence, which we're hearing about today. We've also got South Gloucestershire and West Sussex with their green carbon laboratories, the Green Print project that is looking at arisings from highways, so grass, birch cuttings, etc., how we can develop biochar, biofuel projects, products from those. We've got our corridors and places, which is the Wessex Live Lab, Somerset, Cornwall and Hampshire, plus Devon, plus Liverpool, which are doing corridor-based projects across A, B and C roads, across ECI schemes and across park environments and very, very hyper-local side roads. Then we've got the Future Lighting Testbed, which is East Riding, really challenging what, where and how street lighting could be in the future to deliver the same safety outcomes that we want, but to drive carbon and to drive wider efficiencies. The program is all about things like today, sharing the findings, articulating the findings, and us in the centre working closely with all of our Live Labs to do that articulation piece in terms of how we get those messages out there. Our carbon baselines have been done by all our Live Labs. All our Live Labs are getting to various stages in the delivery cycles, and many are completing, and then we get into the reporting where it gets really interesting to see what those carbon numbers look like in terms of how we've all performed, which products are good, which products are less good, but also how that sits in with the rest of the current highways environment. So what does it mean for efficiency? What does it mean for cost savings? What does it mean for labour savings? And all those things that start to influence how future contracts are contracts are delivered, how future schemes are delivered. So an important part of this is behaviour change, how we all change our behaviours across industry. It's really important to remember that this is a wide church that sits in and around this project. There's an awful lot of reporting that you can find on the Live Labs website. If you just Google Live Labs 2, you will find it. We do a lot of work in the background in terms of how we interface with other programs, particularly ADEPT's Carbon Leadership Program, which some of the people on the call might be part of, particularly our pledge. If you go to the website, we are looking for companies and local authorities to sign up to our pledge to be part of this journey, because the journey continues beyond the end of Live Labs finishing in March. There is a long-term monitoring and evaluation program, and it is the start of a discussion as to how we make that change more widely. How can you get involved? Bookmark the website, read our news and blogs, check for reports, ask me to present to your communities. I have probably the luckiest job in the world that I get to talk around these exciting things and get to articulate these messages to wide audiences. And importantly, ask the questions. None of us have all the answers to this, and we are all on a journey. So thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I look forward to listening to all of the presenters and everybody that's talking. And as ever, the door is always open. come and find us and we will help you achieve your outcomes. So thank you, Seb. And thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Giles. Okay, so I'll keep it really brief from my side. The objective of the sandbox was really to understand what the barriers are for new entrants to the market. So it's as much an academic exercise in some ways, although I don't like to use that term, but we wanted to gain knowledge and understand, why is it difficult? Where is it difficult? Are there certain individuals in certain roles? Are there certain pathways that are easier? What are the blockers that people are going to find when they try and enter the highways market in the UK for the first time? So that's a really big part, because we want to use that knowledge to then make recommendations. We're working on a blueprint and a set of guidelines for new tech companies, but we can also feed up recommendations all the way to the top and say these things aren't working. It's also about ultimately supporting 6 tech companies in hopefully moving the dial on where they are, whether it's pilots, relationships, understanding of the UK market, understanding what testing they need to do, what evidence they need to create in order to sell their products. So on the one hand, we want to create almost knowledge for the UK and try and create systemic change, but we also want to obviously support these companies and move them forward. So we're going to hear from 6 companies today who are on the screen. I won't read them out. It's tight. We don't like to run these webinars for too long, and we have 6 individual projects with individual groups of people and stakeholders, so there's a lot to get through. Each company will have 7 minutes to present, and if they go over, they'll have less time for Q&A. Please put questions into the chat, and we'll kind of manage that. But also what I'd say is, if this instigates, I guess, new ideas or thoughts that you've got, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of the companies themselves or myself or even Giles. So I think without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to pass over to EcoPals for our first presentation.
Yes, Seb, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. So I'll briefly share my screen. Can everyone see my screen properly?
Yeah.
Okay. Then should I start? Perfect. Hello, everyone. Nice meeting you. I'm Rodrigo Maggi, International Growth Manager here at EcoPals, along with Fabian Zitzmann and Jonas Vaga, which are the managing partners. The idea of this presentation is to briefly walk you through our feedback from the early phases of the program to the latest one. This is the agenda, and we'll finish off, let's say, by talking with our real-life project that happened in the UK, particularly in North Lanarkshire. But as first step, it is important to briefly present our technology, the EcoFlex, what it is, how is it used, what is the purpose of it, and then we'll follow and deep dive on the program itself. The company and the innovation, our technology, the EcoFlex, what is it? So EcoFlex is basically a polymer modifications made from recycled materials and recycled pieces of plastics that are highly curated and carefully selected. The idea here is to directly bring and create your own PMB, polymer modified bitumen, on the site. How? By directly introducing the product into the mixer. So we're talking about the dry modification here, and the product is thought and designed to properly disperse and rheologically modify the binder. Therefore, the product has both at the rheological level by modifying the properties of a standard bitumen and giving it comparable properties to conventional PMBs, but also act on the environmental and carbon footprint side, given that we selected actually materials that are initially deemed to be incinerated. When we started this program, and I want again to thank all the mentors that are here present in the call, may they be from the public on the private side, we had this round of investigations together with them. And it quickly came to our mind that we found some key findings that later on will give us strategies to properly tackle them. So we had kind of three parts. The first one was about regulations. Here we really wanted to understand the technical benchmark, but as well the overall market structures in the UK. Key finding definitely was about the fact that the national highways state, of course, the standards as they are in charge of highly strategically important sections, but also the fact that local council could adapt and tailor some of that standards to their needs, and that any kind of pilot project would have been done, it would be done through this type of actor. Therefore, we knew and we developed a strategy to focus on the local council, because we knew at the end of the day, for any kind of maiden projects, it would have been done through them. The second point, which was definitely one of the most important barriers, it was about the market and the positioning. We're talking with EcoFlex of recycled plastics, but also recycled materials. We know that it's a technology that has been also in place early in the market in the UK, and that led sometimes to kind of mitigating and poor results, and therefore through skepticism and stigma of this material. Therefore, the concrete action plan here for us was really to focus on the high performance additive that we propose, and being fully transparent on how we obtain the EcoFlex from the waste stream we use. Therefore, this implies robust quality insurance and must first and foremost technical reliability and consistency of result. This was clearly one of the pain points that we did kind of work well on this and make sure when we're in talks with public and industrials to reassure them on the fact that we're consistent. And we do have a proven track record now, essentially in Germany and also across Europe. First point was about the performance. It really was about trying to understand what were the key performance and the KPIs when it comes to asphalt in the UK. Turns out that the KPIs are the ones we used in our market, that is Germany. Therefore, it was mostly, let's say, about reassuring and confirming established performance, as well as getting some operational insights from the industrials. Here as well, I want to thank again the BDRS team that really, thanks to targeted introductions, put us in good positions to get those operational insights of people that will be on site and eventually company that will work with us later on. This, over the month, enabled us to get our first real life project secured. I want to thank Ellen and Scott. I saw them in the meeting. This was done together with the North Lanarkshire Project Council, together with the National Paving Contractor and Industrial. Formula used for the project was HRA 3514. They started with the 4060 standard bitumen mixed with the EcoFlex. So what you see here in the picture, done in Motherwell, in the Chapel Knoll Road, basically is an HRA that is polymer modified. The length and the project itself covered around 600 meters squared. The thickness of the layer was around 50 millimeters, and the mixing temperatures, we're talking HRA, was around 180 and 190 degrees Celsius. Overall, the feedback from the people on the site were very good. Great workability and usability of the product was noticed. As you can see here in the picture, there was a good behavior during the compaction overall, and also the leveling. So as you can see, it's very clean and smooth on the picture on the right, properly rolled, especially once the shipping were made and the roller was passing on it. There was no displacement, I'll say, or behavior of the mixture, when sometimes this is typical from the HRA. Here, the material really was well behaved and well structured. Though no, very good project and good first starting point, I would say, in successful outcome and implementations of it. Sometimes videos are a bit more evocative than words, so we're thinking of also showing you this brief video to kind of showcase the behavior that I was mentioning that was taken directly on the site. I hope exactly you won't be too pixelized, but as you can see, as the roller passes, you can see this rigidity. Also looking at the edge, that basically was maintaining still, and the comments as well from the people on the site and using the roller really was going into that direction. Now, thanks to these projects, we had some great media coverage and industry momentum, as it was kind of a success story for everyone that was implied. Notorious outlets kind of picked up the story, such as the Herald in Scotland, Scottish Construction Now, and Highways Industry, which was the latest one. Clearly, I think now the next step for us is to build up this momentum, and thanks to this successful story, kind of capitalize, but also fully grasp, let's say, the opportunity that is presented to us, and also to kind of promote such technology to any kind of actor, maybe public or private in the UK, that will be interested in having greener infrastructures. How we do this? Well, definitely it is about being present at key industry events. We were in the Highways UK a couple of weeks in Birmingham, and planning to come for the upcoming Elk Creek editions, while maintaining close ties with our partners that were involved in the NLC project. As mentioned, they really liked the product and how it behaved, and now will be open to propose it to their customers. Therefore, we really want along all this to bring in and coming in clutch all together and give it this boost. As a matter of fact, the first efforts we'll be making are already tangible. Interest in spreading fast. We do have a second project now that is confirmed in England, not Scotland, and therefore will be late this Saturday. Therefore, I think at the end of the day, it's a great step forward in expanding the footprint and showcasing the impact of our solutions. Thank you to everyone. Thank you very much to the CEDR as well, and all the actors and the mentors that have been enabling all this and enabling us to basically provide such positive impact to the UK infrastructure sector, and particularly the road one. So no, thank you very much, everyone, for the presentation. We thank you for the BDRS, especially their team and the dedications, which truly at the end of the day made the difference. Now we all ears to your questions, and looking forward for any kind of points you might want to raise. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rodrigo. We've got a question in the chat, which is, how is longer life defined? Is that life of the bitumen or the asphalt mix?
Yes.
So, yes. Okay.
So thank you for the question. It's basically both, because once you mix the bitumen, it is kind of what makes the asphalt last. The effects that we have from EcoFlex are going in two directions. One is in general performance, so you'll have less rutting, better fatigue resistance, flexibility at lower temperatures. On the bitumen level, we also have, you could say, oxygen scavengers in the product that will reduce the binder aging. So even after long times where the pavement has been laid, you'll see less rigidity in the binder that is building up due to those aging effects. So you could also say that the bitumen is living longer in itself.
All right. Okay, I'm not sure whether people can unmute. It's our first Teams webinar. So if anyone's got any other questions, we've got time for one more quick one. Otherwise, we'll move on. Scott?
Yeah, thanks. It was good news story, Rodrigo. You mentioned you've got one more trial in place. Have you had further interest? And I suppose that's a key challenge for you now, is how you sort of push forward and you know, try and get from the first trial or the second trial, which have been really successful, to expanding further. And that's obviously part of what this project was trying to look at. Have you had any further ideas on how you were going to do that?
So yes, a bit of details on the trial that will happen this Saturday. It will be conducted on the SMA 14 mix, and yeah, will be done in England directly with an industrial that manifested interest as well, and I heard about us as well through the recent coverages that we made it happen in North Lanarkshire together.
Brilliant. Okay.
Thanks
very much, Rodrigo.
Okay, perfect.
Great presentation as always. We're now going to move straight into Richard from PRG. Richard, over to you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much there, Seb. I'll just get my screen shared. And can you see my screen?
Yeah, all good.
Yep, perfect. All right, thanks very much, everybody. And I'd like to thank everyone from Live Labs and all the mentors for their support through this programme. I'm Richard Hutchins, and I'd like to tell you how we can reduce waste, improve the environment and remove tyre dumps, creating a sustainable route for waste tyres and achieving net zero for road construction materials, identifying barriers to market and how we can mitigate those challenges. National highways and local governments have a net zero objective for road construction material and national highways is for materials by 2040. Meanwhile, the UK, we import over 1.2 million tonnes of bitumen annually. And bitumen, obviously, everyone knows, is used as a binder in asphalt and is a major component in road construction. Meanwhile, in the UK, we export over 300,000 tonnes of waste tyres are exported each year, often to countries with no emission controls. And there's a clear gap and a major opportunity to provide this solution. We take waste tyres, we shred them into pieces, then feed the shred into our continuous reductive distillation unit. As the tyre shred moves through the unit, the chamber, it's heated and this removes the oils that are contained within the tyre material. The oil exits in a vapour form and is converted into liquid as it cools, then is separated into a light oil for use as a fuel and a heavy oil to convert into bitumen. The remaining solids, steel and carbon black, exit the unit, are cooled and separated. Steel for resale in the well-established steel recycling industry and the carbon black for use as an additive to bitumen to provide a bitumen with a lower carbon footprint for road construction. There's huge potential for CO2 savings for waste reductions. Using the waste tyres has a twofold benefit for the UK. Number one, in the transportation of over 300,000 tonnes of waste tyres halfway across the planet, creating over 30,000 tonnes of CO2 just from shipping alone. This can be stopped. This then becomes an asset for producing road construction materials. The carbon black can be a beneficial additive to bitumen, improving its durability and reducing its CO2 footprint. Meanwhile, the oil will be separated into two fractions, the heavy oil as a bitumen for road use. And creating bitumen from waste tyres means that it can be distributed and applied using the current methods and toolings, minimising the industry's investment. The remaining light oil will be used as a fuel for bitumen and asphalt manufacturing process, reducing the industry's reliance upon fossil fuel while reducing its carbon footprint, but most importantly, will be creating a sustainable route for waste tyres. Our PRG's achievements to date, we've had funding from National Highways, has allowed us to optimise our process for the bitumen production and tested the asphalts in labs. We have a memorandum of understanding for the leading Tier 1 suppliers, and we've gained approval for a live road trial. We've been recognised within the industry with awards from the Highways UK exhibition and also from Myra Technology Park. And we've had white papers submitted to PIARC, the international road industry body, to review at their conference in France next year. And having been accepted, it highlights the scientific value of the work that we're completing. The PRG project is part of the Live Labs 2 barriers to Decarbonising Roads Sandbox, and it's aimed at assessing the feasibility of using the waste tyres in road construction. And we've been identifying key barriers to the adoption. We've tested some mitigation and mitigating strategies, and we've developed a roadmap to get us to the live road trials. We've mapped barriers across supply, funding, validation and procurement. To move the project forward and to gain funding for the building of the prototype and the final material development, including the live road trials. But this initiative not only addresses the environmental concerns associated with tyre waste, but also contributes to the development of a more sustainable infrastructure solutions. With our mentors and stakeholders, North Lanarkshire Council, National Highways and Holcim and PI Management have helped us to identify some of the market barriers which we need to overcome. Some of the barriers, there's several significant barriers that are hindering the full-scale implementation of our process. One major challenge is the current state of tyre supply in contracts in the UK. Over 70% of the waste tyres are exported, and this practice undermines the domestic recycling efforts and limits the availability of raw materials for innovative projects like ours. Another critical barrier is that the lack of independent real-world validation of the materials produced. Local councils don't always have the funding to conduct trials, while National Highways insists on councils-led trials for validation, and this is creating a circular dependency that stalls progress. Additionally, there is also a substantial funding gap which prevents building innovations like our CRD unit necessary for live trials. These operational constraints are posing significant risks to the project's timelines and our scalability. Overcoming the barriers, we've developed a series of mitigating strategies to aim to facilitate the adoption of and validate our CRD technology. One approach involves engaging with local authorities to establish regional supply agreements for waste tyres, thereby securing a consistent source of raw materials. Additionally, the project advocates the policy reforms to prioritise domestic recovery over exports of waste tyres. To address the validation challenges, we're planning to conduct a small-scale pothole repair trials, which will generate performance data and build confidence among the stakeholders and our investors. But the potential impact of this technology is substantial, both environmentally and economically. If all the UK exported waste tyres were processed, it would result in a reduction of over 150,000 tonnes of CO2 emissions annually. This significant decrease in greenhouse gases supports the UK's net zero targets, but economically, tie-dry bitumen is cost competitive and to conventional materials, and it's offering a viable alternative. Moreover, the use of recycled components may lead to longer lifespans and reduce maintenance costs, further enhancing the value proposition. The project repurposes waste into useful products, thereby minimising the environmental impact and promoting the resource efficiency. To facilitate this, our CRD technology, we've got several key recommendations have been proposed. First, there is a need for funding and guidance to support independent validation and development of material specifications. This will help ensure compliance with industry standards. Secondly, creating forums for early adopters to share results and can build confidence and encourage a broader participation. Third, developing funding pathways specifically for mid-stage innovations like PRGs to bridge the gap between research and commercialisation. Finally, promoting the open sharing of trial data and incorporating low carbon criteria in procurement processes can drive change and support the transition to sustainable infrastructure. This will enable the environment for innovation, reduce barriers to entry and accelerate the deployment of low carbon construction materials. The next steps we have to advance our technology from concept to commercial deployment is the immediate priority: secure funding to build and commission the prototype for the CRD unit. This prototype will enable us to conduct the live trials, provide critical data and performance scalability of the technology. And to provide investor confidence, we're planning to carry out pothole repairs in collaboration with Myra Technology Park and North Lanarkshire Council. These trials will serve as a proof of concept and help validate the material's effectiveness in real-world applications. And it'll help give our investors confidence to fund the prototype development stage. The roadmap reflects a strategic and methodical plan to build innovation, low-carbon road materials for the market. What are our next steps? And hopefully working with the sandbox. With help from North Lanarkshire Council and Myra Technology Park, we have locations for the pothole trials. We have enough material now of the carbon black to produce a small amount of low carbon bitumen. However, we need the funding and lab time to produce the materials and then create the asphalt for the pothole trials. If this can be funded with help of the sandbox, it would be very much appreciated. And I'd like to thank you for your attention and all the help that we've had through this programme. I'm Richard Hutchinson. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Richard. Right, we've got time for one quick question, if it's out there. And I think Richard, just touching on the trials, obviously I know that's really something that we're hoping to be able to push through, and I kind of don't see why that shouldn't happen.
Good, thanks for
that. Scott?
Yeah, just because there's no questions, I'll just say, yeah, we're happy, obviously, to accommodate the trial. We'll work with our partners to get that in place. You mentioned the sort of early collaborators forum, Richard. We've obviously launched our knowledge bank, and we're looking for add-ons to that going forward. Do you think that would be an appropriate location for to have a forum for collaborators?
Yes.
For the supply side.
Yeah, I think anywhere that brings the attention to push low carbon materials is going to help, because I've been finding that when we've been talking to people, it's very much there is a few sort of areas where people are talking about it, but you really need something that gets the focal point and actually link that to the procurement process as well. And if we can do that, I think it really help to overcome some of the barriers and the perceptions that low carbon materials are always expensive. Our challenge is to actually to bring it in at a lower cost than bitumen. So as we add it, we can lower the cost, but more importantly, lower the carbon footprint. And if we can do that, that will help open the market up for a quicker access. And more importantly, it'll also be able to drive that demand so that we can convert more waste tyres into usable materials and get reduce the carbon impact of road construction.
All right, brilliant. Scott, thanks for your question. Richard, thanks again. And we're going to move straight into Uberbinder. Over to you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, great. Hello, my name is Jet Yang, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Uberbinder, based here at Materials Innovation Factory in Liverpool. We are here because our vision aligns completely with the mission of the BDRS Sandbox. We believe that deep decarbonization of our vast road network and assets is well within reach. But to achieve this moonshot, we must tackle the core of the challenge at the root level. And for road building and maintenance, that's the glue and the rock. Uh, to work on ancillary peripheral innovation simply isn't good enough. It's like trying to electrify the Titanic or building its deck chairs with recycled materials. We've got to go to the root. And only way to do this at scale is to transition to low carbon asphalt. This is the only way that we're going to do our part in our sector and our industry to repair the world. Why this matters? There's over 25 million miles of paved roads in the world. That's enough to go to the moon and back 50 times. And with the rising infrastructure demands and tightening climate goals, we need to urgently transition away from bitumen. And not only that, with recent announcements by the IEA, ExxonMobil, and BP, fossil oil supplies expected to flatline to 2050, creating great shortages for bitumen. So material sovereignty will come into question for the UK, and we can expect many global supply shocks. Now, our breakthrough innovation is what we call inverse vulcanized biobinder. It is sulfur-based. Last time there was a major innovation with sulfur of this magnitude was back 180 years ago when Charles Goodyear learned how to cross-link latex with sulfur molecules to create rubber, like rubber tires that you see today. Because our feedstock materials are sustainable and regenerative, our technology is massively scalable, and we project that we're going to be significantly cheaper, better, and more sustainable than bitumen binders for asphalt roads. Now, our tech maturity, we're not shovel ready, we're not commercial ready, we are at technology readiness level 3 to 5, which means how much cheaper, how much better, how much more sustainable. These are the areas that we are investigating, calibrating, and substantiating. Inverse vulcanization, what that means is we take sulfur molecules, we crack it open, we cross-link it with biomaterials that you can harvest on a seasonal basis instead of every 3, 4, 5 million years to create a massively scalable binder that can completely replace bitumen. One of the most fantastic benefits of being a part of the BDRS Sandbox is the direct engagement we were afforded with a number of stakeholders we would otherwise not have had access to. And I think it's really a people's business more than a technology business. Having said that, we realized that still a great many people involved in the sandbox were looking for transactional fit versus a strategic fit. You need to come to the table with substantiation that you are cheaper, better, and more sustainable. And oftentimes innovations are being developed, needs to be developed together. So I think we realize that we have more work to do. And we also noted that many of the stakeholders took on a gatekeeper approach rather than being a strategic enabler. But fortunately, some expressed some interest cautiously. And one of the key learnings is that between reality on the ground and the vision that everyone seems to have, there's a huge gap, kind of gap that what we call, innovation's a valley of death. This is a big challenge that we have to overcome together. So the key lessons learned is that the behavioral barriers are more entrenched than we even thought. But having said that, the people are the opportunity. If we embrace a mission-based open innovation framework that is more common and practice in other sectors, there's a huge opportunity to make a huge difference. And the last and the most important lessons learned is we can't we can't meet about meetings. We have to act. And only way to really move this forwards is to accelerate the cycles to tech maturity and deployment through rapid successions. So next steps, we want to take leverage of our participation in the BDRS Sandbox and have continuity by regrouping and to see what can be done together. And we want to take on a more structured approach to innovation. Again, the open innovation framework. And only way innovations that can make a big difference can get off the ground is by working within a collaborative ecosystem. And unfortunately, I don't think this ecosystem exists in the UK as well as what we've been able to discover in the US and in Europe. In fact, we've already secured and started our live field trials in Massachusetts in the USA, although they were last to come to the table. And UNESCO's Global Engineering Day team came and did a video, and they documented what we were doing. And we will be featured at the Global Engineering Day event next year in March. And in Europe, we've already secured field trials. Although we are based in the UK, we have not been able to secure a pilot as of yet because many of the stakeholders are much, much more risk adverse and expect you to come to the table with everything being proven already. But, the planet is burning. 2 days ago, a UN released the report that we're well headed instead of the 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in global warming, we're headed to 2.5, which means a double to triple of deaths that are expected over the decades. And, we need to act fast. And only way to do that is to be a part of the ecosystem and co-create and co-pioneer together rather than being transactional. Thank you.
Thanks, Jet. Right, we've got time for a quick question. But I think I just kind of want to echo what you're saying, Jet. And the objective of this whole program was not to do a load of trials and show everyone how great it was. If that happened, that's fantastic. But I think one of the interesting things that we learned was that it's very easy if someone comes on with a great product that's shovel ready and is cheaper, lower carbon, higher performance, they're probably going to find it very easy. But what percentage of innovations is that? Probably almost zero. And is the local highways market in the UK able to actually engage with a TRL 5 or 4 company? Does it know how to do it? Does it know what questions to ask? Does it know that it's giving advice and support as much as just asking, when can you put it in the ground and is it cheaper? And I think it's been really interesting kind of going on that journey. And it flags several things that I think we need to take a look at as an industry.
Yes, well, if I can just reply to that, we have a lot to learn from other sectors like software. And consumer goods. They have embraced the open innovation framework to great effect, and I don't see that in the road building industry. And if innovation means anything, it means change, not to double down with the status quo and current ways of doing things. And so how do we embrace that change? We have to learn from other sectors.
100%, and we might be talking a little bit later on some of the plans for that. Okay, Jet, brilliant.
Thank you.
As always, thank you very much. And I'm now going to hand over to Biozeroc.
Hi, I'm Liv, co-founder of Biozeroc, and thanks for having us here today. Biozeroc was founded with the ambition of decarbonizing heavy industries such as cement manufacturing. And we are doing this with a biological approach and essentially looking at how nature solves making materials in a way that doesn't emit huge amounts of carbon dioxide from burning limestone at high temperatures or using fossil fuels to fuel the kilns, but instead reversing the process and seeing how actually nature creates these strong and durable materials that can act as cementitious binders. And we have proven the fundamental concept of this. Using bacteria and circular waste products, we have managed to create elements that are 100% free of cement, and rather than emitting carbon, actually stores carbon in the products. So the product we entered BDRS with was one of our precast products, which is used with 100% cement replacement. It's the quite white cement-ish, so it has more of a premium look and finish. Previously, we've been focusing using this product in more visual applications such as landscaping, interiors, and even sculptural applications. But the reasons why we wanted to join this program was to explore whether there were good opportunities beyond commercial and urban developments. So we wanted to see what the opportunities were within public infrastructure, where governments and councils have set really strong decarbonization targets. We thought, given the strong sustainability benefits of our products, this would be a really good alignment. So the aim was really to see whether that alignment truly was there and what the opportunities would be. We assumed that the barriers would be quite similar from what we had seen in commercial spaces, which first and foremost included a real diversity of product requests in terms of shapes, finishes, colors, textures. But in practice, this was a really low consideration from the clients and mentors we spoke with via this program. We also assumed that the fact that we had limited trials and sort of not verified EPD data would be a barrier. This didn't seem like as big of a problem as we expected. We were more hearing that most clients wanted to do their own trials regardless. So even if we had all this data, it still would require more trials before we actually got adoption in the space. And we also predicted that our small scale manufacturing, given that we wouldn't be able to do hundreds and hundreds of cubic meters, would be an issue. And whilst it was confirmed that small batches isn't ideal, it was not the key deal breaker for doing tests and trials in this space. What we instead found to be the biggest challenges for our precast products were the product costs. We found that there was an expectation in this space for cost comparative products or even undercutting costs, even at trial stages, which we felt there was a really limited recognition that unit costs does improve with scale, and as innovators, we are not at that scale yet. We also found a barrier to be around the procurement routes, that there was a preference for products to come via established suppliers due to liability and insurance coverage. And this, I think, is something that most product startups will face in one way or another. And the final one was simply the product alignment. For most of the clients here, if we had been more focused on tarmac or other applications, I think it would have been a stronger alignment, which we sort of confirmed. We also talked about our next generation product, which is a low-cost SEM, and that I think we would have seen more overlaps and potentials for in this particular setting. So the conclusions we took away from this was that the biostone precast may just not be the ideal fit for public sector infrastructure unless the procurement priorities change or whether carbon is factored into the procurement requirements. We also found the insurance and liability frameworks to be a barrier for smaller manufacturers. And yeah, it would be interesting to see how that would change in the future, if that is something the BDRS will look at addressing for future cohorts. But we do see really strong opportunity for our next generation product, biocement, which is a low-cost supplementary cementitious material that can directly replace cement in standard mixes. Since it is a limestone-based product, this is already aligned with regulations and could replace up to sort of 20% of a standard mix. So we're currently progressing testing and characterization of this with plans to do commercial trials in 2026. Even though we did not decide to conduct any trials with the Biostone due to reasons that were discussed, we will continue to engage with some of the people we met via the program. And as we continue to develop Biosem's performance data sets and life cycle assessments, we are hoping to conduct more trials next year. If you or your organization would be interested in trial these low-cost SEMs, we'd love to connect. That's all for us. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Liv. I know I missed a question last time, so I'm just going to give it a second. I mean, Liv, just I guess an honest take. One of the things that maybe you found, I guess, from your presentation suggests that you had a product and you found that maybe there wasn't a great product market fit in the local authorities environment. Is that like fair to say? And I guess what would be your honest take about actually engaging with local authorities? Did you find it easy? Do you find that they're open and easy to work with on, I guess, an earlier stage innovation?
I mean, our honest take was that we were quite surprised from a few of our engagements via the program how extremely focused it was just on the baseline and cost. Like, we know it's a really cost-driven industry,
yeah,
but we find it surprising being on an innovation program that it sort of expects that it should be cost comparative from day one, even as we are sort of, TRL 4 or 5 innovation. We are just operating at such a small scale that today that is not possible. Of course, we have the numbers to verify that would be the case operating at scale. But yeah, we were really surprised that people who were so saying they wanted to engage with innovations weren't actually willing to do that unless it was smooth and business as usual. So that I think was the biggest eye opener from us compared to operating in more commercial spaces.
Yeah, I think it's the same with any industry, but possibly local roads as much as anyone, that you almost reliant on individuals who are thinking outside the box, willing to take risks, willing to think differently, and that makes it all pretty challenging. Thank you. Just a quick one. How, in terms of the insurance and liability frameworks barrier, like what do you think could be addressed in that sense?
Well, I think it needs to be some sort of risk sharing or a better way to operate around that. Just given us smaller businesses, we don't have the same liability or insurance opportunities as larger companies do. Exactly how to solve that, I think we are not the only business experiencing those challenges when growing. So yeah, if anyone has a really good solution to that, I'd be very welcome to hearing about it.
All right, Liv, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. And any further questions, get in contact with Liv or myself. And I'm now going to hand over to Alex from Sima.
Yes, I'll just share my presentation. 2 seconds. Okay. Yeah, so hi everyone, we're from Sima Environment, and I'm going to be giving a presentation on our product Polypave and also how the sandbox has gone for us. So to start, I want to just outline what the main 4 goals of our company was. We try to approach sustainability from the perspective of asphalt professionals. Our main goal was to find a low carbon material that can replace either bitumen or aggregate, the key components in asphalt, and we set ourselves the following criteria that this product had to meet. We wanted to find a material that improves the sustainability of asphalt, both in terms of its carbon footprint, but also the overall environmental impact. Cost also matters. We also need to find a material that is either commercially viable or can either save money or be cost neutral for the producer. Thirdly, the performance is critical. Any material we introduce has to maintain or enhance the long-term durability of asphalt. And finally, there has to be a plentiful source of the material to meet future demand. Through extensive research, we developed our product, which meets all of the previous requirements. It's called Polypave, and it's produced from ultra low density polyethylene, abbreviated as ULDPE. So what does Polypave do and how is it dosed? So Polypave was designed to be a bitumen extender. By adding 1 kilogram of Polypave, you can replace 3 kilograms of bitumen, all whilst maintaining the same binder volume. This is because Polypave has a very low density of 400 kilograms per meter cubed. The Polypave is added directly into the mix of an asphalt plant where it melts and effectively becomes part of the binder. So what are some of the benefits that Polypave offers? Firstly, we have environmental benefits. Polypave is produced from 100% recycled ULDPE. There are currently large stockpiles of this material all across the country, and the only really viable outlet is to incinerate it. If we were to incinerate 1 ton of Polypave, it would release 1.48 tons of CO2e. So we're preventing that from being incinerated. And that gives a positive environmental impact of 1.27 tons of CO2e. And Polypave also reduces the virgin bitumen requirements in asphalt. So that would save up to 2.31 kilograms of CO2e per ton of asphalt produced. Also get performance improvements when using Polypave. Contractors have reported improved workability, and in the wheel tracking test, we've seen improved resistance to deformation. So these are some of the wheel tracking results. We can see that particularly the wheel tracking slope has significantly improved with the mixes made with Polypave. That's the graph here in the middle. That improved resistance translates into an increased lifespan of the pavement and consequently reduces the carbon footprint as fewer maintenance interventions are needed. So Polypave, because it's produced from ULDPE, it has a much lower melting point than other types of plastics that have been trialled before, between 95 and 125 degrees, which ensures full compatibility with warm mix asphalt. We also produce Polypave at a single source recycling centre, therefore there's no risk of contamination from other types of plastic. And we've also designed the form factor to maximise the heat transfer. We have very thin flakes and they're very small, so they melt very quickly. So our product looks like this. As you can see, very small flakes, and we supply them in bulk bags, and you can dose them into the mixer using a standard fibre blowing system. Here we've got some photos from some trials that we completed last year near Liverpool. We produced 3 batches of asphalt. The one on the left is an AC10 with 4.6% virgin bitumen content. In the middle batch, we removed 3 kilograms of virgin bitumen and replaced that with 1 kilogram of Polypave. And on the right, we went even further. We removed 5 kilograms of bitumen and added 2 kilograms of Polypave. As you can see, however, the 3 mixes look identical, and that's exactly what we're aiming to achieve. They look just as rich. So to summarize, Polypave has a positive effect on the environment, the performance, and also provides a commercial saving for the producer. So moving on to the sandbox, how has the sandbox enabled us to overcome our barriers and bring us closer to market adoption? So I think one of the main things that we took from the sandbox is, well, it permitted us to engage with many stakeholders that we did not have much contact with before. As well as asphalt producers, we discussed our solution with local authorities, contractors, environmental specialists, as well as academic experts from the University of Nottingham. Hearing all these different perspectives has helped us refine our products and also gain valuable insights into the role played by Polypave through each step of the road design. We also had the opportunity to showcase our product at the National Asphalt Research Consortium this year in Nottingham. And that's me in the photo there presenting at the event in September. The sandbox also provided us with the opportunity to trial our product in a real life setting in North Lanarkshire. We're currently in the process of testing and refining our product shape and size in collaboration with Holcim, who will supply the material for a real life trial. What we're aiming to do is we're working hard to ensure that Polypave can easily flow through an existing fibre dosing system, which most plants already have installed. We're progressing well and are hoping to set a trial date over the next few months as part of the Live Labs 2 programme. So what comes next to us? We aim to continue engaging with low carbon initiatives across the UK, arrange further presentations at the IAT and other industry conferences. We're going to reinvest all the generated income from sales over the next couple of years towards generating more data through laboratory testing, We also want to certify our carbon footprint figure as one of the first priorities, and this was something that was raised throughout the Sandbox program. We want to continue engaging with our mentors and all the contacts that we've acquired through the Sandbox because their advice has been invaluable to us. We'll also be arranging further trials on different types of roads, testing polypave with different asphalt mixes and also diverse traffic loading. And lastly, we want to continue all the work that we started during the Sandbox because our journey has not ended here, and we will carry on working on the barrier mitigations moving forward. I have here a QR code if you want to scan, if you want to download our PDF brochure, which provides a lot more information on our product and more detailed test results from trials, or you can also ask for it at the email address below, info@simaenvironment.com. And that is the presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Alex. A quick question that I kind of know that you've answered before, but what are there any kind of environmental implications for like runoff once the road's been laid, and is there any possibility of plastics or any kind of environmental issues coming out of the road?
Well, this is something that we've this is exactly why we chose a product that has a very low melting point, because what has happened in the past, and this was one of the barriers we looked at through the Sandbox, is there's been cases where the plastics have not melted, they have not fully homogenized with the bitumen, and that then can, through wear and tear on the road surface, that can lead to the formation of microplastics which end up in the waterways. So we've completely overcome that issue, and through test results we've seen that there's no residual plastic left in the asphalt mixture. It's completely become part of the binder, and therefore there's no risk at all of that leaching into the environment.
Lauren?
I know you previously mentioned also, and maybe it's worth explaining where you've gotten to around a barrier to do with the standard for binder weight versus volume. I'm wondering where you've gotten to date in that sort of mitigation phase.
That was just about explaining, because we've had a bit of hesitation from asphalt producers when they when we say, oh, you can take 5 kilograms of bitumen out of the mixture and you can replace it with 2 kilograms of polypave, and it's just trying to explain that difference between binder mass and binder volume, because the density of bitumen is over 1,000 kilograms per meter cubed. The density of polypave is 400 kilograms per meter cubed. So it's much lower density than polypave. That means that although in terms of mass we are reducing the overall binder content of an asphalt mixture, in terms of volume we're still providing that workability, that richness to the material. And as I showed in the picture from one of the trials, the mixture, even though you're taking out a lot of virgin bitumen, it's still just as workable, just as rich. So yeah, we have kind of overcome that barrier, but it's just trying to explain what the difference is between mass and volume.
Great, thank you.
Scott, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Seb. Yeah, sorry, mine was just more of an observation about why Live Labs is so important. Obviously, working with companies like Alex and Sima, we did have a trial planned. It didn't go to plan, but Alex and the guys are way back to do some minor tweaks, and we'll trial it again, learn the lessons, and develop it going forward, and hopefully we'll get a successful bed laid the next time, which is what this program's all about. So thanks, Alex.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of lessons to be learned from that, because every asphalt plant has a different configuration, a different setup. So that's what we've found, that our product, it works really well on some asphalt plants. On other ones it does go through the dosing system, but perhaps it doesn't flow through as quickly as we would like. So we're just trying to tweak the final product to make sure that any asphalt plant, it's universally applicable.
All right, let me just check for any other questions. Okay, Alex, thanks a lot. And I'm now going to hand over to our final technology company, which is DMAT.
Thanks, Seb. Good morning, everyone. Let me share my screen. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Carlo. I'm the co-founder and head of business development at DMAT. Before starting the presentation, I'd like to thank all the team behind the sandbox and all the key stakeholders involved in the program. It was truly beneficial for us, and we were bringing home lots of understanding on how the UK market works, and we're really looking forward to bringing our technology to the UK. So today's presentation is about the progress that we've made over the past few months. But before starting that, I'd like to give you a quick introduction about our company. So DMAT is a deep tech company that focuses on next generation concrete and mortars. And we have a mission of redefining construction standards by improving the performance, durability, and sustainability of these materials. And to do so, we have developed two solutions that are based on two key pillars. The first one being the lowering of CO2 emissions. We're able to bring down CO2 emissions by up to 60%. And at the same time, we're able to extend the lifespan of concrete structures by 2 times. And this is mainly due to two key technologies. The first one being self-healing. So the capability of concrete and mortars that have our filler inside to auto-repair themselves. So this doesn't allow water or harsh chemicals to penetrate inside the structure and compromise the performance of rebars inside the concrete matrix. At the same time, our technologies provide a real barrier against carbonation, which is the process of CO2 penetrating inside the matrix. And basically, our products enable to slow this process down, ensuring that the structure lasts for longer. Now, we discussed the solutions, and now it's time to discuss how we intend to bring DMAT to the UK market. But to do that, it is important to understand the key activities behind our company. So we produce and sell concrete fill and do sales of concrete and mortar fillers, which go hand in hand with custom-made mix design that we license to concrete producers. And by doing so, we're allowing our clients to produce better products, so better concrete, better mortars, with no retrofitting costs. So this means that we're not challenging existing production processes. We're not changing anything. So once we have understood the key activities behind DMAT, we then, together with the stakeholders, identified the key stages for the UK market activation. The first one being a general market assessment and regulatory compliance, which was actually the process that we focused on over the past few months. And then, of course, the other two stages are to identify a local producer that can support our production in the UK and develop a business development plan. Now, thanks to the involvement of the several stakeholders, we managed to better understand all the procurement process in the infrastructure industry, but overall in the concrete industry, the validation requirements and the compliance. And then we designed a roadmap to deliver our first UK pilot project, which is expected to happen beginning of next year. Of course, there are several challenges like any market in the world, but thanks to the help of the stakeholders involved in the program, we managed to identify all the mitigation strategy to tackle these challenges. And the first and foremost was regarding the regulatory system, so how we could leverage our current CE certifications and adapt them to UK standards. And then also how to, let's say, translate the current data that we have in terms of durability improvement and make them available for UK players so that they are adapted to existing or new regulation coming up. In terms of the UK pilot, so the delivering a roadmap to develop our first project in the UK, we're now at the second phase of this roadmap, which is the project identification. We're closely working with North Lanarkshire, especially Scott, which I again thank for all the effort that he has provided to us. We're now in the project selection phase, so we're starting to look at several projects where we could bring our technology there. And once we have identified the project, we will then move into the project requirement understanding, how we can deliver the best mix design, and of course, bring the material to the project site to do the actual mixing. And then finally, we hope to launch it as soon as we have concluded the actual production process. This is to give you a general understanding for maybe those of you who still haven't heard about us, of all the possible applications of our solutions. We have a very flexible platform that can be adapted to any sort of use, from the infrastructure to also residential and commercial developments. And we cannot really wait to bring this technology to the UK and develop new projects with new partners. So thank you all for your time. Happy to answer any question. And again, thank you to everyone involved in the program.
Thanks, Carlo.
Thank you.
Right, any questions?
I guess not.
I've got a
Sophia?
question. I'm wondering, you've explored a lot about the regulatory compliance in the UK. How do you find the difference between the regulatory compliance you had to do in Europe compared to the UK? What's similar, what's different?
So actually, the difference aren't huge because, as some of you may know, before that there was sort of the norms were pretty much the same as across Europe. So now that we move into UKCA standards, the requirements are basically still the same, but what we were exploring was the introduction of low carbon materials in the industry. So that was the focus. And we understood that there are no huge issues in adapting our current certifications to the UK market. I think that there's a question in the chat.
Can you see it, Carlo, or do you want me to read it out?
Yes. So in terms of competitive space,
what do we think the industry or marketplace could do to encourage collaboration around shared challenges while still protecting commercial interests? So quite broad. I guess from your perspective of being in the sandbox, kind of what are you left thinking maybe could be easier or could be better?
Yeah, I think that the strategy would be to go, like what we're doing here in the sandbox, is to go to the developers of projects and directly discuss with them and introduce these new type of technologies so that they can be the one bringing the technology in the industry. So by working closely with these people, with broader institutions and local authorities or infrastructure developers, we're able to showcase the advantages of this kind of technologies and help also maybe smaller players to understand the benefits of using this type of solutions.
Can I come in on that as well to build on Carlo's point and to answer the question? I think this sandbox has been a really great example of and perhaps maybe the SMEs can validate if I'm talking out of turn here, but being able to actually share their challenges and experiences as they've gone through the sandbox with each other, respecting that they each have, different, as you say, competitive differentiators, but they are facing similar challenges. So they've been able to talk through that. And I think going forward, as a sector, what I would really like to see is us better cultivate that network of SMEs in identifying the barriers they face collectively, in developing or deploying what methods they could use to overcome those barriers. Like as the comment says, perhaps educating the workforce. So sorry to step on your toes, Carla.
Definitely agree. Thank you, Lauren. Yeah. Definitely agree with what you said. So it's a great strategy to educate players in the industry.
Okay, now this is I think I'm not necessarily sure who this is aimed at, but is UK REACH posing any barriers to entry, especially for plastics and rubber? So I don't know if EcoPals, Sima, or PRG know who UK REACH are and have any comments on that.
Yeah, I can jump in very quickly from Sima. I'm Mark Houston from Sima Environment. Generally, polymers are exempt under REACH, or they are under EU REACH requirements, and I'm pretty sure that UK REACH would be the same. And they're not technically classed as a chemical, so I don't think it would come under the scope of REACH. So we've encountered no issues, and I can't see any reason why it should pose a problem.
If I may also add up on what Mark just said, Rodrigo here from EcoPals. When it comes to REACH, we do have a declaration and certificate of conformity, and for operations in UK as well, we didn't encounter any particular hurdles in a way while sharing the documents around. So I don't think it should be that big of a problem, at least from our experience. It is not.
Okay, there's been a final response saying that the monomers are not exempt. Do you want to come back on that, Mark?
Yeah, we've had discussions. It's going to go probably outside the scope of this kind of quick chat. So I would probably want to come back to that separately, because there's supporting documentation which we would need to show, etc. So it would take me time to sort of compile that, but I would still maintain that they are outside of the scope of REACH. REACH at the end of the day, it's looking at chemicals. These are products that have already been used. They're recycled plastics.
It's effectively a manufactured product, so it wouldn't be. Because everything is lots of different materials are made from chemicals, and they're primary components. But when you have the manufactured product, that is exempt from REACH registration.
All right, thank you for
if I
could
just jump in.
Go ahead, Richard.
If I could just jump in this from the side of waste tyres. Waste tyres, for them to be sold in the UK, have to be REACH compliant. So all the materials that we're using are REACH compliant. So from that side of things, when we've trialed against the areas and that, such as the PAHs and this sort of thing that are contained within the rubber, they're all compliant with the REACH with REACH, because of the specification. Tyres have got to be matched that. So we're not finding any issues at the moment.
Okay, all right, guys. Thanks for your responses. Thanks for questions. That brings us to the end of our technology company showcase. So thanks, Carlo. And I'm now going to hand over to Lauren from Amy to help close us out. Lauren, over to you.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you all for joining and taking the time out of your busy days to listen to some of our SMEs that have been part of our sandbox, the barriers that they're facing, and some of the solutions that they're hopefully taking forward. It's really great as someone, as part of this process very early on and shaping the sandbox, to see the benefits it's had to those SMEs, even if in the case of some where it's exploring where those applications aren't necessarily viable. I think that's all good learnings that we can take and leverage as part of our Live Labs 2 program. So really excited to see the continued growth. And as I mentioned, I think what will be really important is keeping that community of practice together, both supporting the SMEs to SMEs, but being that facilitator, hopefully ongoing, with other industry mentors. As Seb mentioned, I was going to cover some of the next steps. So from a sandbox perspective, the Safetytech team and the SMEs will be working on gathering those final learnings, and they are all producing final reports that summarize in detail specifically the barriers that they found throughout the sandbox and the mitigations they've developed. But also then Safetytech will be developing a blueprint that takes together those learnings and forms them into coherent recommendations, or essentially a blueprint for other SMEs on how to navigate that transition to business as usual in the UK local roads market. More broadly as a programme, as we're part of the Centre of Excellence, we've recently launched our knowledge bank, which is going through its own iterative development, but we are encouraging all local authorities, but also SMEs alike, to use the knowledge bank to input their data, their case studies, and to share their insights as an open source free platform designed specifically to reduce that siloed working we talked about earlier. We're also, as a programme, wrapping up our final trials. So some of that will be some of our SMEs that you heard from today, but also just one or two others. And then as well, our final technical and carbon evaluations. And over the next sort of 6 months until a project closure, we're going to be focused really strongly on engagement and dissemination as well. So we're asking local authorities or anyone else in the industry to approach us and to share via one-to-one engagement, and also, to help us help them draft case studies to input into our knowledge bank. We'll be at many different events over the next year or so. So for example, more recently, we'll be at the Road Expo in Scotland at the end of this month. So if you are there, if you're Scotland based or traveling up, please do feel free to come by and say hello. We'll be hosting more webinars as well. So we have a lot of other programs similar to the Sandbox, but looking at those barriers to innovation. Sandbox is really focused on from the perspective of our SMEs, but we're also looking at from the perspective of our operational teams right now as well. So we have some behavioural change research ongoing that we'll hope to share over the next couple of months. And then our final reports, and that is the same with the centre, but all of the different live labs will also be producing and sharing their results over the next few months. I've included in here a QR code to the knowledge bank and encourage everyone to visit, leave your feedback, input your own case studies and evidence and materials. And if you do have any feedback, please feel free to email us. But my last sort of ask or request is that this not be a one-off session, that you do reach out to those SMEs. I think Jet hit the nail on the head earlier in terms of how do we move into that more open innovation approach collectively as a sector. So part of that will be continuing these conversations, trying something a bit riskier or trying something that's going to cost more in the initial sense in a small scale, just to help our sector collectively achieve its decarbonisation targets. So again, thank you so much for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of your days.
All right, thanks, Lauren. We'll wrap it up there, everybody. So thanks for joining. And I think, as you can see, there's a real opportunity here to continue this sort of collaboration. I think I'm kind of partly looking at Giles as well, actually, because we've spent, if I'm honest, we've spent 1% of the total DFT funding here, and we've worked out what the next generation needs to look like. There's really nothing stopping us from having a continuous flow of international innovation coming into the UK with a continuous network that's constantly collaborating, signing mentorship, supporting pilots, supporting trials, and really creating the UK as somewhere that is actually really open to innovation and doesn't need millions of pounds. So that's my kind of challenge to you, Charles, which is we don't need £25 million to keep this going. We need a fraction.
I will come back to the challenge that I've been publicly putting to the sector, and that's everybody in the sector, that all of the things that everyone's spoken about today. Can we afford not to do this? That's the fundamental question. And we have to be looking at the reasons why we will do this, not the reasons why it's too hard to do this. And that applies to local authority partners, it applies to term maintenance, to encourage that innovation. We've been looking at how, for instance, the rail industry does innovation. The challenge that we have with UK highways is that it's a dispersed model of standards and behaviours and interpretation of things. Through the Carbon Leadership Programme, through Live Labs externalisation, which we hope to be carrying on into next year, these are the things we're tackling. We absolutely understand what we need to do, and we want to break those barriers down.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Charles. Thanks a lot, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all. Cheers now. Bye.
Thank you.